As a national leader, you're witnessing a new summit, the Global Leaders Meeting on Women, being held here in Beijing. So I'd love to know your reflections, your observations, assessment on women empowerment and development when we look back at this 30-year-long journey.
Eu queria começar por agradecer esta oportunidade.
The Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action brought about a new paradigm and more awareness for the world to promote women's rights, their role and their relevance for development in all spheres. The Beijing Conference also brought about the global voice to empower women and promote gender equality. This was significant because from there we witnessed the improvement of women's status around the world. Although there was no strategic legal framework that required all countries to give women the proper treatment and the role they deserved, considering they represent the majority of the population. Most countries began to formulate their agendas based on the decisions made in Beijing, and Mozambique was one of them. However, Mozambique didn't start treating women differently or giving them the necessary role just in 1995. It was already doing so before. The Beijing Conference was a milestone from which we began to fight to achieve the goals defined in Beijing. 30 years later, there has been an immense evolution, and it is visible in all sectors of political life particularly, but also in economic and social life.
And when the architects of Beijing Declaration look at today's world, what do you think that can make them proud and what may still leave them concerned?
Eu acho que temos muitos motivos para nos orgulhar.
I think we have many reasons to be proud, and I wouldn't say only Mozambique. I think the whole world has to be proud, because Beijing made all of us walk together. It defined a roadmap that the world adopted. It is true that there is one or another country that remains a little behind, but in general, the world sees the Beijing platform as a roadmap. And each country is taking measures to see if it complies, if it achieves the goals. And besides achieving the goals, I think one of the aspects that I consider essential is girls' education. Not only in our country today, we can say that about 50% of educational institutions, 49.9% of them in all levels of education, are for women. Therefore, this is 50%. It is half. And due to the number of women that Mozambique has, certainly in the coming years, we will have more women than men in all education systems. Why do I talk about education? Because education is the basis for any achievement. We cannot demand equal rights, equal opportunities, if we do not have the same tools, if we do not have the same level of education. But today, girls, women are often more qualified than men in some sectors. So these women are in a position to compete and attain the same positions. Therefore, it doesn't have to be just because there is a quota. It has to be because they're genuinely competent. Another issue where I think we have had many advances, speaking particularly of Mozambique, is maternal and child health. Today, more than 70% of women have institutional births. Having an institutional birth means that she is safe. It means that there is a greater probability of her having a child in adequate conditions. It means that if this woman seeks health services, it is because there are health services. But it also means that she has awareness of the importance of having an institutional birth. If this woman is educated, she is healthy, she will be the basis for the formation of a healthier generation. A generation that can better contribute to the future. So all this is important. But we also had advances in other areas, speaking of Mozambique, not directly linked to women, but which have affected women's development. The issue of access to water and sanitation. Having water is fundamental for the lives of women, not only for their hygiene, but also because going to fetch water steals a lot of precious time from their domestic chores and even from their education. A woman who has to spend hours going to look for water does not do other things. If she has water nearby, she has more time. And if she has more time, she has more time to take care of herself, to take care of her children, and even to take care of her future, to get an education, to work. So there are many things that have improved, but we still face challenges. One of the challenges that I believe still exists is the issue of violence against women. The incidents of violence against women, I wouldn't say they have increased, but they are extremely high. And why wouldn't I say they've increased? Because in the first phase, we didn't have statistical data. There was probably even more or less violence, but it's only a perception. It's not founded on statistical data. Today, we track statistical data, and often the conclusion we reach is that there is more violence. There is a lot more violence, but if we compare, we will have to do a much more careful analysis. So this issue of gender-based violence is a major challenge, because we have to ask, why is there still so much violence? Why are more women victims of violence than men? Why do men commit violence against women? Or why is society more violent towards women? What do we have to deconstruct? Is it education? Is it culture? So this is the aspect that I think is critical, not only in Mozambique, but a bit all over the world. There continues to be a high rate of femicide, and we have to fight to reverse this scenario. Women are not second-class citizens. They are equal citizens who have the same rights and deserve to be treated with dignity. And violence is certainly not a dignified treatment for women.
You are the second only woman serving as Mozambique's prime minister after independence, and that's historic. So what do you think women leader can bring to the table when it comes to equality and improving people's livelihood?
Bem, realmente este é fato.
I will start by saying women are leaders by nature, given their social role. There is an expression, housewife. But if you look deeply, you realize this housewife commands a team and organizes a home. To do that, she must lead by example. That's why a child's misbehavior is often attributed to the mother. So a woman has a spark of leadership within her. I'm not saying men don't. They can be excellent leaders too. But the woman carries within herself this mission to lead and lead by example. For me, paths are made by walking together and never set out to reach a certain position. Things happen organically. I wasn't born a leader. It was a process. It was a process that I was part of, but certainly there were many others who determined that I would achieve and arrive where I am. It's certainly not because I'm more intelligent. Many people with the same or better characteristics or qualifications could be doing this job, perhaps even better than I can.
Well, I want to mention a very important and very impressive figure here. As of 2024, nearly 40% of Mozambique's members of parliament are women, the highest rate in the whole of Africa. So with your legal background and your experience of being justice minister, could you share what mechanisms are working here to make that possible, and how you plan to ensure that women's voices continue to be heard and, more importantly, be respected in policymaking?
Para dizer que em Moçambique existe uma política de empoderamento feminino.
Mozambique has had a women's empowerment policy since before independence, consolidated after with legal frameworks ensuring equal rights. We are also bound by international legal instruments, guiding us toward this goal. Today, we have more women in leadership and management across parliament, government, and the judiciary. We don't have quotas, as such the women are designated by their merit. When capable women exist, they compete on equal terms with men. The women in leadership and management positions in Mozambique are not there because someone offered them the place. They are there because they deserve it and have the capacity. Therefore, there's no favoritism. We have the principle of equal rights, which I translate into the principle of equality of opportunity. I believe this is more important than just equality of rights. If an opportunity exists, and there are men and women, and the women are in a position, they can exceed. And it is from this perspective that I think the women who are in leadership and management positions in Mozambique deserve to be where each of them is.
And looking ahead, what kind of areas and projects would you like to push forward in terms of bilateral cooperation?
A cooperação Moçambique-China
Mozambique-China cooperation is very solid, based on mutual respect, sovereignty, and a strategic partnership with mutual benefits. For the future, we want to continue and consolidate this relationship. And bearing in mind what our government's 5-year program is, one of the strategic areas is the area of infrastructures. Mozambique has several logistic corridors that serve the hinterland. So on this issue of the logistic corridors, it is very important to have functional routes, that is, roads, functional ports, and there we think that cooperation with China can be very important. But we also have the social area. We also prioritize the social area, education, health, and digital transformation. Today's world is digital, and China has great expertise. We believe China can invest not only in infrastructure, but also in digital transformation. This will be a partnership with mutual gains, leveraging China's potential and our resources through public-private partnerships to deepen our relationship.
China and Mozambique are both Global South countries. But as many say, Global South is not only a geographical concept, it's not only a place on the map, it's more of a voice and growing force in global affairs. Do you agree with that idea?
Totalmente concordo.
I totally agree. When we talk about South-South cooperation, not all participating countries are geographically in the South. That is the first element to see that this is not just a geographical place. They are countries that share a common vision. Together, we can help change the world paradigm. Today, cooperation is multilateral, not bipolar. It is in international forums that South-South cooperation strengthens, makes its voice heard, and advocates for a more equitable and fairer world where every state's sovereignty is respected. This cooperation must continue and make itself heard in a sometimes polarized world. We are a world of many countries, and each deserves respect in its place. The Global South can use its collective networks to influence decisions in multilateral bodies.
In September this year, Chinese President Xi Jinping officially put forward the Global Governance Initiative in Tianjin, and that's the place where the SCO summit was held. The first principle of this initiative is to adhere to sovereign equality and enhancing the representation and voice of developing countries. So how do you think China and Mozambique can work together toward that goal to amplify the voice and influence of Global South countries?
Antes de mais, eu devia saudar esta iniciativa, esta visão do presidente Xi Jinping.
First of all, I would like to commend this initiative, this vision of President Xi Jinping, which is a far-reaching vision, if I may say so. And to go back a little to the previous question, the sovereignty of countries must be respected, but less developed countries must also have their voices heard. And the Global South can use its collective networks to influence decisions in multilateral bodies. Therefore, we must work together. We must amplify the voices of less developed countries, because being less developed does not deny their sovereignty. They also have a sovereignty, and this sovereignty must be respected. And we must use multilateral forums to fight for a more visible position, a platform where we can express our voice, because we also have a voice, and this voice has to be heard.
All right, thank you very much, Prime Minister. Thank you for your time and your insights.